Really? Just one or two of you? Come on, let's be honest. We're all friends here. So I'm gonna guess that's about a third of the room. So we're gonna change that so that by the end of today we all have something that we're really cool and excited and passionate about. Okay? Sound good? Now, before we get going here, you know, while we were having dinner, Cheryl was asking me some questions. Well, how'd you get into this stuff? Where did this come from? Where did the logbook come from and all that? And so I'm going to go a little bit off-road and tell you the story of where this really came from. Started with way back. You know, I've got my business career and kind of, you know, grew up in the different companies. And I was with a company called Wire Mold here in Connecticut, West Hartford. Put their name on the map a number of years ago, back in around, goodness, the early mid-90s, and for really transforming that business using a lot of lean manufacturing, Toyota Production System methodology. So I was really right place, right time, got a tremendous opportunity to learn a ton at that point in time. Well, I mixed that at the same period of time. I'm super passionate about learning about goal achievement, the science of success, how does this stuff work. Went through tons of personal development programs over the course of years and years. If there was a book about goal achievement, I was reading it. You know anyone like that? How many people are like that themselves? Do a little reading? Good. Good. That's good, because there's a lot of power in that. Because what you read, you can then apply in so many different ways, so many different areas of your life. Well, fast forward to, let's see, what would this time frame be? The late 90s, 1999, 2000, I was actually living in Atlanta and marathon training. And I actually had the aspiration to run a marathon. You know, anyone else, 26.2 miles, sound like fun? No? Not really? So here's the thing. When you live in Atlanta, remember the Olympics when they were in Atlanta? How hot they were and how miserable the athletes were? Well, here's Pete. I want to get, on this particular day, I want to get 10 miles in. I have never run 10 miles at this point in time. So I went out, and after breakfast, so it's probably 10 in the morning, with one bottle of water, this big. And I went out at whatever temperature it is in approximately May in Atlanta at 10 in the morning for a 10-mile run, which ought to take me a couple hours. And I left a note for my wife and said, well, I actually saw her on the way out. So here's where I'm going. If I'm not back by this time, hop in the car and come get me.
That's cute.
Now, embarrassingly, I made it about 7, maybe 7.5 miles, huffing and puffing. I had to walk. I'm totally thirsty, as you can imagine. And here she comes in the car to pick me up. Really, really embarrassing. Well, I finally did the right thing, and I got help. I had a running coach. I worked with a coach, part of a group who was a marathon training group. Jeff Galloway, everyone familiar with that name?
I haven't watched on my
Very good. Jeff Galloway was an Olympic marathon runner in Munich, 1972. And he now teaches people like us who might be running or not, how to run without getting hurt, which is really important, because if you get hurt, you set back for weeks and weeks and weeks. And runinjuryfree.com is one of his websites. And so you can go there and learn about his methodology. So I suddenly had this group that I was running with, learning the Jeff Galloway method of some walk-run intervals. And suddenly here I am, 10 miles was easy, which was awesome, right? Because I'm able to do that. And I ran 4 marathons that year, which was really great. The thing that was different at the end of marathon number 4, 363 days after the first marathon, is I had a little baby that I didn't have before. So as much as I wanted to keep running, I really couldn't. I wasn't allowed as much as I would have been otherwise. As we all know, there's a lot of changes that happen once there's a third person living in your house, especially ones that are too small to sit up on their own. So that was my marathon history. Now Sharon was saying her daughter's doing 6 this year. Now, who wants to run 1 marathon, never mind 6?
I'm with you.
Okay. Well, I actually would love to run another one. It just happens to take, it's a 6-month commitment of hours and hours and hours of work. Now, Dean Konarnis, you ever hear this name?
Yeah.
Right. 50 marathons, all 50 states, 50 consecutive days. Wow, right? So you start to think about, what's possible out here? What can we actually do as human beings? What can we achieve? Now here's a guy who wasn't a runner, and then all of a sudden one day just went out and like ran 10 miles and then became an elite runner. Phenomenal. And there are stories about people who run 7 marathons in each of the 7 continents in 7 consecutive days. So it's almost easier to do 50 states because you could just drive next door. Right. How do you go from Antarctica to, right? This is crazy. But people have done it. And British Airways has funded some of these people. And I read one, I don't remember this gentleman's name, but I remember he was an Englishman. And the 7th marathon was the New York City Marathon. And he was a surgeon and had surgery in England the next day. He just ran 26.2 miles times 7, 7 days in a row, and had to be on his feet all the next day.
Yeah.
Right? What we can do as people, really, there is no limit to this. You can really go and push the limit and be surprised if you've got some of the right tools in place. Now, one of the tools with the marathon training happened to be a logbook. And the idea of the logbook was to track everything. Athletes tend to do this. They want to know, how are we doing with, what did we eat? How did we sleep? What was the course like? All these things. I was tracking I would wake up and I'd test my morning heart rate. How many beats per minute was it? It'd usually be somewhere between 57 and 60 when I was first getting up. And one of the things, if it was like 65, I knew something wasn't right. Maybe I was not hydrated enough, or maybe I had a little bit of a bug I needed to pay attention to, so I might not push it as hard. Logbooks give you that sort of feedback. Now, athletes can be a little bit obsessive and crazy, but I started somewhere along the line with all this personal development work thinking, well, there's all these other really cool, powerful things that we can do to achieve our business goals or our career goals or whatever they might be. Wouldn't a logbook work there as well? And I started to experiment. And I started to play around with different formats and different tools, and went through and tracked everything. And tracking everything isn't for everybody. But it was something I played around with, and then I, over time, narrowed down the list and figured out what seems to work the best, somewhat universally. And what was great is people were asking me, hey, what do you do? How do you do what you do? And the logbook kind of was born from that moment. So I ended up writing it and wrote the chapters and described it, and ta-da, here it is today. Pretty cool? So how do you like that story? There's your answer.
Yep, excellent, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. See, now if you sit next to me at dinner and ask me a quiet little question, you might get a nice long public answer too. All right. So what's great is goal achievement is a skill. If you follow some processes that are proven to work for other people, do you think that it's likely that you can improve your results too, that they'll work for you as well? And that's what's great about this. So by following some of the processes that I'm talking about here, because they're very well known in some of the methods and some of the success accelerators that are part of this, you can actually start to see some of your results jump up in ways that you might not expect were even possible. And that's what's so exciting about this. So let's talk about some of the dreams and goals that you might have. Now, before we get started, there's a couple things that I want to make sure that you realize are, I think, at everybody's table, and even your too. That's great. First is there's a business card here that does have my name and the book, just as a reminder. You could use it as a bookmark. But this way you have the name of the book. We actually learned the hard way that it's important to put the ISBN number on here, because booksellers really want that. They don't care if you're the author of a really cool book. If you just have a twinkle in your eye and a smile on your face, they want to know the ISBN number. So that's why that's there. Secondly, there is this form, and I do ask if you would please put in your name and signature. You'll notice the video cameras in the back. We record everything. I'm recording the audio and the video. Why? Feedback. Feedback. This is one of the biggest things. The other thing we do is we'll probably grab some snippets from here, we kind of create the best of videos. And this is meant to be a video of me, but what might happen is the profile of somebody's head might get in there accidentally. And if we ever do use this for something, we just want to make sure that we actually have permission for people to use this. And I know there's at least one lawyer in the room. This is lawyer type advice. You gotta go get these papers signed. Okay, we do that. So please do that, and then Christina and Jeanette will just go and grab them from the tables in a couple minutes. So that's good. Third is this threefold piece of paper. What this represents, this is where you'll take your notes. And what's great about this is it's like a little book where you follow and you open it up and you just move left to right. And it's meant to be fairly easy. So you go ahead and start and put in your name. The reason you put your name in your own piece of paper is when you accidentally drop this or leave it on the table, someone else can say, oh, Sharon, I found your piece of paper. Right? So they can get it back to you. So you definitely want that. There's space for notes. And then there's blanks in here, so there's some of the things that I'll talk about. It gives you the opportunity to fill in some of the blanks. Because this is kinesthetic learning, where you are taking notes, listening to